So we're going to open the afternoon session, and may I now invite Dr. Stephen Chan, Head of the Office of Service Learning in PolyU. Giving a round of applause. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, in this afternoon session, we'll start with Mr. Bunker Roy. I'm not going to say too much because I want to let him tell his story, which you'll find fascinating. But I just want to point out one thread that kind of tied together Mr. Roy and Dr. Tan and what we do here at PolyU. That's one tiny story. One of the critical issues in the developing world, in people in poverty, is energy, or more specifically, the lack of energy, the lack of electricity. Without electricity, you cannot charge your phone, you cannot reach the internet, you cannot read at night, you cannot cook and wash and have fellowship with your friends. So how do we help people who don't have electricity? Right? One common technique is to use solar panels to generate electricity. It turns out all three of us are trying to tackle the same issue from different points of view. As you can gather from Dr. Tan's presentation this morning, his specialty is in financing things, putting the money to serve the community. So he set up companies so that they can provide solar panels to these families in an inexpensive way, affordable way, helping them to save enough money so that they can purchase those systems. We at PolyU, we don't have money, but we do have we do have students, we do have manpower. So we train our students. We send them to countries like Cambodia, Myanmar, and Rwanda, and hopefully next year, Tanzania, to install solar panels, to help the local people to learn how to set up solar panels. Now, Mr. Roy has an even more imaginative approach. He takes grandmothers from Africa and other countries, take them, and he actually persuades the Indian government to finance the whole thing, to take these grandmothers to India, train them to become solar engineers. And then he sent them back to their own country to install solar panels. So you can see the same issue can be tackled in many different ways. And so please welcome Mr. Bunker Roy.
For the next half an hour, I'd like you all to forget everything that you heard about education. What is education? And everything what your parents tell you to do or not do. So is the age group here between 20 and 25? Hands up. All between 20 and 25. Okay. I'll start by telling you what I did when I was 20 years old. For what it's worth, I was the Indian national squash champion at 20. I was the university tennis captain at 20. And I was all set to be a doctor, teacher, diplomat. What your family tells you to do, you go along what they say because you don't want to anger them, you don't want to. So at that time, there was a big famine in Bihar. It's a very poor state in India. And out of curiosity, I thought I'd go and see what a famine is like. When you go to a very expensive elitist school and college, the best and the most expensive in India, you actually don't go back to a village. So out of curiosity, I said, let's go and see what it's like. The other India, the part that you never see. And I saw hunger, death, starvation for the first time. And it really shook me. I said, what sort of education am I getting if I can't see what's happening next door, 50 miles away from the city I live in, or from the school I go to, or the college I go to, what sort of education am I getting? That I can't give back to the community what I received. So I went back home, told my mother, I think I'd like to live and work in a village. Mother went into a coma because she said, look, everything's laid out for you. You know, you're going to university abroad, and now you want to go to a village? No money, no job, no prospect, no security. What the hell are you going to do in a village? I said, I want to be an unskilled laborer digging wells. She never spoke to me for many years. Because her immediate fear was, what will I tell the family? How do I explain to them that you got the most expensive education and you want to be a digger of wells in Rajasthan? So the family said, look, he'll get him out of his system. He doesn't have any staying power. Forget it, he'll come back. Well, didn't come back for many years because for 5 years I just dug wells. Went into a well, 100 feet deep, blasted, came out, found water for agriculture and drinking water. And that was when I was exposed to the most extraordinary knowledge, skills, and wisdom that very poor people have. Very poor people have. In every country that you are in, you'll have communities which have traditional knowledge, skills, and wisdom, which is underutilized, which is devalued and never applied. So I thought I'd start a Barefoot college only for the poor. What the poor thought was important would be reflected in this college. So when I went to the village for the first time, the elders came to me and said, there's one thing I want to tell you guys. I said, what? He said, please don't bring anyone with a degree and qualification into your college. So it's the only college in the world that if you should have a master's or a PhD, you're disqualified to come. You have to be a cop-out or a washout or a dropout to come to the college. Because that is where the traditional knowledge and skills and wisdom lies. People who've never been to school and college. And why are we not showing this knowledge, skill, and bringing it to the outside world and applying it on a large global scale? So I learned the hard way. I saw this Belgian Jesuit priest walking with a stick, looking for water. He was walking with a stick. I laughed at him. So he said, come here, young man. Hold the stick. So I held the stick, looking very foolish. He said, walk. I walked. He said, stop. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and the stick went up like this. And he said, now bring it down. And I tried to bring it down. He said, never laugh at things you don't know. Never. That was the first lesson I learned from an 80-year-old Belgian Jesuit priest. So today, the Barefoot College is 45 years old, and we have redefined professionalism. Who is a professional today? A professional is someone who has a combination of competence, confidence, and belief. A water diviner for us and the community is a professional. A traditional midwife who delivers babies in the village without any technology, only with the wisdom that they have, delivering babies in the villages, is a professional. God forbid half the members of parliament today have been delivered by midwives and they're still alive, sorry to say. These are technologies, wisdom that we must keep alive. I like this quotation. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be someone who can't read and write, but is not prepared to learn, unlearn, or relearn. This is the essence of the Barefoot College today. So someone said, okay, you're talking like this, it sounds like mumbo-jumbo to me, show it on the ground. So we built the Barefoot College in 1986 with 12 Barefoot architects. This Barefoot architect can't read and write, but he built the Barefoot College for me at $1.50 a square foot. Hasn't collapsed. Just got the Aga Khan Award for architecture, but we had to return it because all the architects in Delhi got up arms and saying, how can you give an illiterate man the Aga Khan Award for architecture? So we returned it. But this college is the only college in India which is fully solar energized. 300 kilowatts of panels on the roof, all my computers, fans, lights work off the solar. And it's been installed by a priest, a Hindu priest who looks after the temple even today. He knows more about solar than anyone I know in the world, and I have traveled. But this guy knows more about solar energy than anyone I know. He's installed it, fabricated, repaired, and maintained the solar panels today. We also have a telephone exchange, which is optical fiber cable, faster than Delhi, and running off solar. So that's your solar, that's the college that we built at $1.50 in 1986. It is also a college which thinks in the future. All the roofs are connected underground. So if and when, should it rain, we collect over 2 million liters of rainwater. That keeps us going till the next year. We built a second campus in the college, and we now have, from the carbon offset side, saved several carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrous oxide as a result of solar rectifying for the last 20 years today. We also collect rainwater there. So it is self-sufficient in power because from the sun. It is self-sufficient in water because of the rain. None of the buildings that I have seen today actually take this into account, collecting rainwater or going solar today. We also went into the geodesic dome, Buckminster Fuller's geodesic dome. Someone said, you need to do a 5-year university course for architecture to do a geodesic dome. So I went to the local blacksmith and said, can you copy it? No problem. Illiterate. So he copied the geodesic dome for us. We have ATM, we use it for community radio, we use it for dispensary, we use it for a community radio, which runs off, only the women run this community radio. Reaches 50,000 people, 20 villages, talk about social messages today. We have an ATM also, which works off solar, so in case you want to bring some cash out. And we believe in preserving the culture. Someone asked about culture. Who was that? Right. And we think the culture of Rajasthan need to be preserved, need to be documented. So every 2 years, we bring all the traditional singers, artists to celebrate 2 years, just to sing. So 300 of them perform day and night. They sit and listen to culture which is almost dead. So we've documented 4,000 hours of this music. We also have a woman, grandmother, who's a dentist, illiterate, looks after the teeth of 7,000 children. And at one awkward moment, she went and told the press that in 6 months she can do a root canal. I said, stop. You can't do a root canal. You can actually look after the teeth of 7,000 children, and even that is more than enough today. Preserve the traditional varieties of seed, which is dying, and we make sure that this nursery has about 5,000–6,000 plants, and we make compost out of that, and we actually sell this compost. But now...
Welcome to the first plastic and waste-free village in Rajasthan. In 2017, Chota Narayana of 400 households was identified to conduct this experiment. it was found that 70% of the families dumped their waste on the streets and the remaining 30% burnt their plastic waste in cooking stoves, resulting in serious health hazards. It was also found that every family was generating 15 kilos of wet waste and 1 kilo of plastic waste every month. Because of consuming plastic with jaggery and sugar on it, nearly 30 cows, buffaloes, and goats were dying every year.
60,000 की भैंस लेवा 80,000 की लेवा और बद थैलियां का मायने शक्कर गुड़े यान को लाग रहा है और वो जानवर बहने खा जावे खाए और वो चप कर खाता.
In order to tackle these problems, a series of puppet shows, presentations, and focus group discussions were conducted over a period of 3 months. This was done to make the village residents aware of the harmful effects of poor waste management. As a result of the awareness sessions, every household purchased 2 dustbins and segregated their household waste at source. A village committee was formed to build and monitor this system, and they employed Rekha and Nathu to be trained to collect garbage every day from the houses. Between July 2017 and now, Rekha and Nathu, who belong to the Dalit community, have collected, segregated, and stored 750 kilos of plastic from the homes and from the streets of the village. Nearly 6,000 kilos of wet waste have been processed into organic compost in 4 pits constructed in the outskirts of the village. Because there was no place to collect, segregate, and store the dry waste, a low-cost house is built made of plastic bottles and mud. 16,000 discarded PET bottles were used in the construction of this house that were donated to us by Clark's Amer, Hilton, Marriott, Samod Haveli, and World Trade Park, Jaipur, and these bottles were transported to the site with the help of Coca-Cola. This plastic house was built by 170 student volunteers from Ayojan School of Architecture and Purnima University, Jaipur. During the 28 days of construction of this plastic house, these students stayed with the families of Chota Narayana. The entire solid waste management system set up is supervised by Gulla Ram, who belongs to the Gujjar community. Cleaning and touching waste is considered a dirty and disgraceful activity for his caste, but he fought against all odds and is now running the system very efficiently. Unlike their previous working conditions, the waste collectors now have a dignified job role and a consistent income stream. They are paid minimum wages every month. In the due course of time, their salaries will also be increased due to the importance and value of the work they're doing. When the water situation of the village was studied, all the hand pumps were clogged with plastic and there were no soak pits.
ये बिल्कुल एक रूम पे ये मालूम नहीं था यहाँ पे अभी ये एक में लगा रहता है या नहीं था ये पूरा ब्लॉक था कचरे का इनके ऊपर इतना कचरा था.
Today, the hand pumps are plastic free and the soak pits collect surface runoff water. Today, no one dumps plastic on the streets of Chota Narayana anymore. Women have completely stopped burning plastic waste in their cooking stoves, and 400 families have now understood the importance of waste management. Ramesh, another Dalit from the village, collects garbage from the households with a tempo donated by a French donor. Him and his wife segregate the waste and compost it every day. 1,000 kilos of organic compost have been processed over the last 8 months, generating a revenue of 40,000 rupees for the village. Also, waste plastic is collected and recycled in Kishangarh, which also has generated a revenue stream of rupees 5,000. For sustainable behavioral change, the students at Chota Narayana's government school were sensitized towards various aspects of sanitation. Through science experiments, documentaries, and workshops, the students are now aware of hygienic practices and have formed clubs to ensure that these practices are followed in their schools and also at their homes.
का आपने किस तरह साबुन से हाथ नहीं धोने से बस सभी बच्चे बीमार हो गए, आप कृपया करके खाना बनाने में खाना खाने से पहले अपने हाथ साबुन व ताज़ा राख से जरूर धोएं.
Okay, you got the idea. The community actually gave us some land in 1987, and today it looks like this because we got the community involved in tree planting, in looking after the forest, and preserving it and making sure they don't cut the wood. We collect about 400,000 liters under that stage. All the roofs are connected underground, and if and when rain falls, we collect 400,000 liters. Sometimes it does not rain for 5 years. So please, water is very precious in Rajasthan. But it's a place where we have lots of programs. And one program is called Jagriti Yatra. Someone is from the Jagriti Yatra? Hands up? There she is. She actually went to one of those yatras. 400 students sit on a train, and for 1 month, they go around some of the organizations of India, where there are success stories, where there are people who've actually done some work on the ground, because all the stories that come out of India are doom and gloom. So we wanted to show that there are some positive areas that people should see. And one of them, 6th of January every year, they come to the Barefoot College, and they sing this marvelous song. Are you going to sing it?
कुछ बदल रहा कुछ बदलेंगे तब बदलेगा जब बदलेंगे कुछ देखा है कुछ देखेंगे कुछ लिखा है कुछ लिख देंगे यारो चलो बदलने की रुत है यारो चलो.
The students from Pakistan would understand that, right? Hands up. Did you understand what they were saying? Great. It's also a place where we meet religious leaders, and one of them was His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Came and spent a night with us. First time in 15 years he's ever spent a night in a village. And it was an extraordinary experience because he said something very profound. After he saw the Barefoot College and he looked around and went around, on a rare visit to the Barefoot College, when he also spent the night, His Holiness the Dalai Lama blessed the women solar engineers on the 13th of February 2011.
That's secret. So those illiterate villagers, even grandmother, you see, physically also a little bit old and illiterate. Yet, through training, is engineer, proud, self-confidence, and dignity. Wonderful.
He said something very profound. He said, now that you've shown the Barefoot College working in practice, let's see if the professors and experts can make it work in theory. Because if you put this into theory, you're doing everything wrong. And yet, it seems to work today. For hundreds of years, wherever there's a shortage of rain, you collect rainwater on a large scale. This is a tank which is 300 years old. Still collects water. We still use it. And it's been constructed by people who are not architects, not engineers, people with traditional knowledge and skills today. So we applied this on a large scale to schools. Today, we are collecting over 100 million liters of rainwater in 1,200 schools for 50,000 children, as and when it falls. Technology which is very inexpensive, and you can do it by collecting water from the roofs today. This is a very old structure, which we went to the government and said, why don't you revive it? Because it's located in a very nice place and you can collect a lot of rainwater. So they sent a stupid engineer and said, oh, it can't be done. Sorry, technically impossible. So we said, why? He said, it's so old, it can't be done, sorry. So he wrote a letter to the government saying, look, these people are trying to revive this tank, and it's not possible. So we went to the community and said, would you like to build it yourself? And sure enough, they did. So today, you see the yellow dot, they built it in 14 months, all with traditional knowledge and skills. And today, we are collecting over 20 million liters of rainwater, affecting over 100,000 people with water. And actually, all the water percolates into the ground and feeds about 10 kilometers. All the hand pumps have got revitalized. All the wells have got water for the first time. And guess how much it cost? Cost of 2 hand pumps today. How much is that? 25,000 pounds. One structure, simply constructed by the community, can have such an impact today. We run schools at night, used to, in 1975, with kerosene lamps. Today, all the schools have got solar lanterns. These are boys and girls who cannot go to school in the morning because they look after cattle and sheep and goats at night, in the morning. So they only have time at night. So they come. Today now, we have also developed a solar projector. And with the projector, because there's no electricity, we use the solar projector off a solar panel, and we used it for a program for Malala. Malala gave us some money, and we're running about 50 schools all over.
The same as she was.
They shot me on the left side of my head. Who has prayed for my fast recovery and a new life.
Here's Malala Yousafzai. She's appearing at Caesar's Palace. The movie is We Named You Malala.
I'm not a lone voice. I am many. They can change the world.
Every 3 years, 75,000, not 75,000, about 7,000 children from all these night schools participate in an election. These girls between 6 and 14 elect a prime minister. The prime minister is 11 years old. She looks after 30 goats in the morning, but she's prime minister in the evening. She has, all the prime ministers are girls, because most of the boys are in a minority. The boys have to settle for being a Speaker of the House or leader of the opposition, but they can't be prime minister. All these girls, very powerful girls, have now got a cabinet, Minister of Energy, Minister of Education, Minister for Water, Minister for Power, and every month they sit, have a cabinet meeting, and decide how to supervise, administer their own schools. The elders have to just follow what the children have to say. She got the World's Children's Prize from the Queen of Sweden 5 years ago. And the Queen of Sweden couldn't believe that this girl who'd never been outside a village in her life took Sweden in her stride, wasn't dazzled by anything at all. And the Queen turned to me and said, could you please find out how and where she got her confidence from? So I turned to the girl and I said, where did you get your confidence from? She looked at the Queen straight in the eye and said, please tell her I'm the Prime Minister. All the 75,000 students who've come out of the night schools go back to the village. They don't migrate to the cities. They have all different jobs they do so that they are productive members of their own community, and we refuse to let them migrate. So over 7,000, 75,000 children have actually stayed back in the village in their own communities and worked today. Where there's no electricity, where there's no newspapers, where there's no television, we use puppetry. This puppet is 300 years old, knows all the gossips in the village. He's my psychoanalyst, he's my doctor, he's my teacher, he's my lawyer, he's my donor, solves all my problems for me. If there's any tension in the village, Joachim Chacha, that's the name of the puppet, comes and solves it for me. I don't have to bring anyone from outside. Joachim Chacha solves it, teacher, parent, teacher, student, all solve their own problems. All these puppets are made out of recycled World Bank reports. Very famous, this puppet. Shook hands with the Prince and Princess of Wales. We even made a puppet of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He liked it very much. So, employment in the village, very important. How do we get people to respectfully, with dignity, generate, live in the village? So, there are weavers, all living in a village. There are solar engineers. There are people who make string puppets. All this generates employment in the village so that they stay in the village. They make sanitary pads. They make compost. They make teaching aids for night schools. They make chalk and candles. They make solar cookers. They all know how to weld. And now, because of the situation in this village, we have come up with an extraordinary design, which is a solar cooker. This costs 35,000 rupees. So now, because of this interaction with the community, we have come up with a solar cooker, which is low cost, no cost. Can you imagine making a solar cooker for $1 out of waste material? Waste that you see in a village, all being thrown away. So out of cardboard and lay paper chip packets, you make this solar cooker, and in 1 hour, you can either make a pizza or you can also boil the rice and vegetables. Make mosquito nets. And now we train women. Sorry, I don't think we have much time, so we are training now women for them to be entrepreneurs. We are training them to know more about their bodies, training them to know how to open a bank account, training them how to handle their husbands. All this is in a training program for about 3 months. And we call that Women Prosper. This is what, Kim, we are going to get you, the women. Our CEO is very, very fond of this. I don't explain it well enough, but I think she's going to, this is a business model that they have developed in Telonia. So we make the honey, we make solar cookers, we print, we have nutritional packets, and today, according to Time magazine, we are reaching and generating employment to 3 million people. Half the population of Hong Kong, isn't it? Right. Now, imagine a grandmother in a village whose job it is for the men to decide that they should stay in the house, cook, and look after grandchildren. And we decided that this is not going to be the case. So we decided to choose. The criteria of choosing this grandmother was she had to be illiterate. She had to never been to school and college. She had to be between 35 and 50, which is the useless age that men have decided they should just stay in the house. And they should have got the endorsement of the community. So 15 years ago, we started by training grandmothers how to do the most sophisticated solar technology available. This is a charge controller. If you ask a German how long it takes to make a charge controller, he says at least 5 years in a university. This is a grandmother from a tribal village in India who's making a charge controller, and she does it within 4 months. So we've gone all over India. All these solar mamas are now solar engineers, and they've gone and solar electrified their villages, all supported by government of India. When we went to this woman in Ladakh, 14,000 feet up in the Himalayas, in Kashmir, and we asked this woman, what's the benefit you got from solar energy? And she thought for a minute and said, it's the first time I can see my husband's face in winter. Can you imagine? For 6 months at minus 40, only with a candlelight. This is the quality of life we talk about. Happier. You asked her how long was she married. So between 2004 to 2018, we have reached 37 of the least developed countries in Africa. This is the light they actually use in their houses. Unacceptable today. Cost them a lot to take it from the nearest town. So we had this system of getting grandmothers from abroad. Every 6 months, we get 40 grandmothers with that criteria to India. All sitting in one table, all chatting with each other, but not understanding a word, because they're all speaking French and Jola and Wolof and Spanish, but the body language is great. And within 6 months, they become solar engineers.
Now his life is bad because all the houses is darkness.
You have more children but no light.
All welcome Billionaire. Barefoot College, we living together 6 months. Learning by doing, doing by learning.
I think there is something I come here to dream.
Something iron. Something iron. That controller. Wiser. Net. Improve.
We want to be engineers.
Mass media, usnai atal.
Yeah, difficult job, but I will try to be.
Wamechagua wanawake kwa sababu hii kazi ya wanawake, si ya wanaume. Hawawezi wakakorofisha kazi wakapeleka kwingine, ila wanaume wanaweza wakakorofisha wakapeleka kwa wanawake wenyewe.
hamu nao, nikiongea nao yani umu hata michozi inanitoka. Ninawataka kabisa niwaone hata kama kesho kutwa ingekuwa kama ndo kazi nishamaliza.
Every day must be practice and practice up to 6 months. I think that our mind is good and clear. We will go our village, make well.
I made this. Yes.
We came from different countries. But the way we here now, we are now one.
The Prime Minister was very keen of India, and he said, I want to see these solar mamas. So he went to Tanzania, and he saw the solar mamas from 7 or 8 countries in Africa. And he said he couldn't believe that this is a training program for all religions, all cultures. So there are Buddhists, Christians, Hindus, all sitting in one table, which is something quite extraordinary in a training program, especially women who come from very traditional societies. So for the first time, we had a woman from Jordan who said, I've never seen a church. I'd like to go and see a church, what it looks like for the first time. And we said, yes, of course you should, because back home you wouldn't be allowed, she wouldn't be allowed. So these are the sort of small things that you learn in yoga, and that's the 60 every. The Prime Minister said, why are you training only 40? We want you to train 60 solar mamas. So now we have 60 solar mamas coming every 6 months. There's a Maasai woman with someone from Guatemala. That's him.
One of our best partnerships in the area of skills is the training of solar mamas. Every year, 80 African women are trained in India to work on solar panels and circuits. After that training, they go back and literally electrify their communities. Each woman is responsible for electrifying 50 houses in her community on return. And you'll be surprised. A necessary condition for the women to be selected is that they be illiterate.
So, we've covered the whole world. We've got 9 Pacific countries who solar mamas where they've come from, and the Prime Minister of Fiji has just opened the Barefoot College in Fiji so that we can service all the Pacific Islands. Michelle Bachelet, she used to be head of the UN Women, and when she heard of our project, she wanted to meet the women. She met the women, and she gave us $300,000 for Africa and $200,000 for the Pacific Islands to train more solar mamas. And when she was the president of Chile, I told the Indian ambassador, why don't you get the solar mamas to meet the president? And she said, look, it's impossible. She has a 6-month circuit. She won't meet. I said, just drop the word solar mamas in the president's office, and she might see them before they come to India. And sure enough, within 24 hours, the Indian ambassador was horrified. The president said, I want to see the solar mamas. And there she is, Michelle Bachelet, with the solar mamas. They said, what are you doing about the Middle East? Women won't come from the Middle East. The husbands won't allow them. We said, don't worry. we are also doing something in the Middle East. And the first woman from the Middle East was trained in Tholonia.
Mahatma Gandhi had a universal message. It is not only relevant in India, but is relevant all over the world. He said it is important first to develop the capacity of your own people before you depend on anything from outside. Can we start by someone getting up who is 40 years old and a grandmother? All line up. 42.
Yeah.
This one?
He's saying she's 50 years old.
And grandmothers. All of them are grandmothers.
Yes.
How many grandchildren?
She's saying she's about 20.
We choose someone from a village who's never been to school or college, never been outside the village, and we train them. You see this book? Everything in this book the grandmother will learn in 6 months. This is only a woman's job. A man cannot do it. A woman has patience and time, and she will listen and learn slowly. If you train a man, within 24 hours, he will leave the village and try and get a job in Amman. So, our solution is to train mothers and grandmothers. She might be illiterate. She might not know how to read and write. She might not ever have left a village. But in 6 months, in the Barefoot College in India, we can make them into solar engineers, and they can come back and solar electrify their own village. Very good, Vinay. Parker Roy. The reason why Rauf has brought me here is to try a completely different approach that we have tried all over Africa, even Afghanistan, it has worked. This will be the first time ever in the history of Jordan that you will have a woman as a solar engineer. The grandmother solar electrified 100 villages in Afghanistan. One village selected a lady as old as his mother. Once she comes back, she'll be the next most famous after the Queen. She'll be the most famous engineer in Jordan.
طيب فرضنا انه ما الستات ما تطلع مثلا.
هاي جلسة. هذه التدفئة مركزية عندي. المشكلة احنا الحطب عندنا هذا من ولعوه هذا تبع نرجد عيو الغفر.
جيران مادر ران
أنا مش حرام، حرام بناتي يبردوا يقعدوا بدون حطب بدون نار. عادي أنا تعودت على الحياة هذه، يعني من أول حياتي نفس الشيء ما ارتحت، بس ما ودي بناتي يعانوا نفس المعاناة اللي أنا عانيت. أي أول مرة أنا أطلع من البلد مش خايفة. بالعكس مبسوطة أحسن ما يضيع وقته فيش بدون أي عمل.
ما ضل علينا أي شيء.
صحيح أنا ودي أترك الأولاد ودي أترك قلبي هنا. أنا رايحة أروح جسد بس عشان الأولاد صغار.
بس كله مشانهم. أنا طالع على المنطقة هذه كله عشان أولادي.
Morning class. So 3 parts of solar system. One is photovoltaic solar module. Solar.
ليش ما تكتبي الحال؟ تعالي على اللوحة تكتبي.
هناك أتعلم بدنا. هناك أنا متعلم. لا أنا متذكر. والله متذكر الله يسيري.
Screw driver. This is solar module. This name is solar module, solar panel.
أصلاً أنا أكتب بس ما أفهم شيء.
Half an hour complete.
Colombia. أنا خلصت.
Fast.
Yes.
Testing.
We have a training center now in the Jordan. She's the trainer. 11th of March last year, President of France and the Prime Minister opened the International Solar Alliance. And at the International Solar Alliance, the government of India asked some of these solar mamas to come and present to the President of France. And so they sang, "We Shall Overcome."
Just today we have solar mamas from 14 countries who will now present the welcome song.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
Time is limited. I'm being asked to. So when they all sang, and they were all moving away, the President of France said, no, I want to see the solar mamas. So the Prime Minister of India said, no, we got lots. He said, no, I want to see the solar mamas. So all the solar mamas had to come back. And there was this woman solar mama from the Ivory Coast. And she said, look, why isn't everyone doing something like this? I'm illiterate, I'm a solar engineer, first one is... And the President was hearing all this. And all of a sudden it hit her that he was actually talking to the President of France. So she went and hugged him. And being a Frenchman, you don't let a woman go until she lets go, and she didn't let go. Until time came, and then he summoned the Director General of Development Corporation of France and said, every solar mama who speaks French will be given a solar panel by the government of France. He committed 2 million euros right there on the spot. So we started with that. I can't say that, and we are now in 96 countries all over. We've got stories of solar mamas I can share, but not now. We don't have time. I've been trashing certificates and degrees all my life, and all of a sudden last year, Princeton University gave me an honorary degree. My wife calls me a fraud because I've been rejecting solar degrees all my life. But there is a certain element of snobbery here, so if it's the first Indian to get it in 40 years. So I'll end with a quotation of Mahatma Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Roy. I think you can see you have touched a lot of people. Now let us give them a chance to tell you what they think and what they have in mind. They must have a lot of questions, a lot of things that they would like to know more. I think we have about, 15, 20 minutes?
Hi, I'm Macy from China, mainland. And I really appreciate you, Mr. Barker Roy, and your effort in India, I'm sorry. I just want to ask a question which can be maybe a little bit rude, but I hope that won't offend. But why solar? Why you choose these solar mamas and all the solar engineers? There are two reasons which I'm thinking. The first is that the energy times has gone through the watt times, coal times, gas times, and renewable energy. And why do you choose from wood directly to the solar times?
Can I take all the questions and then I can answer them together? I'll answer yours first. Get some more questions?
Yeah, we'll take some more questions and then Mr. Roy will try to answer together. Yes, I think there's another one at the back.
Hi, my name is Farhan. I'm from Pakistan. I want to ask that in your presentation, you said that we have to keep people in the rural areas. But in our SOAR program, we witness in China that it's very difficult to keep people in rural areas. They are attracted by the flashy lights of the cities. And not every country or every place has the resources to devote to the rural areas to keep the people there. Like in Rajasthan, you conducted many projects, you gave them like resources to work in solar as solar engineers. But how do we change the mindset of people? So even though in countries that don't have enough resources to devote to such rural areas, they still have their own passion to change their rural areas. Yeah, so thank you.
Hello, my name is Kia. I'm from Indonesia, but I study in Poly. I want to ask a question. Like, first of all, because in this, the project that from the Barefoot College, I want to know that if the women from the rural places are being taught how to make the solar panel and all the things, when they come back, how to convince the society that the woman can be accepted again in the society, because I think there should be like some cultural gap, which like maybe they don't really like, this is my assumption, like not really like respecting women. How can like the local community itself put trust on this like people who just like come back? Does like the Barefoot College like give them more like, how to say, like teach them how to adapt back, or like, I just like wonder how it works. And then like when you approach like a new country to get involved, I want to know like how can you like really do it actually? I just want to know like the technical things.
I'll answer them now. Why solar? Go back to Gandhi's message. Always. What Gandhi said was eminent sense and even applies today. Decentralize and demystify technology. Solar is sun shines everywhere. Power is required in many parts of the country, including villages which are very remote. And getting a grid into some of these villages would cost $100,000 per kilometer. And even that, sometimes the power doesn't come. So the answer to the Barefoot College model is decentralize right down to the household level, give them a 40-watt panel, give them 3 lights, give them a battery, give them a solar lantern, and for the next 7 years, you will have no problems with power because the power is in your control. Grid is 100 miles away. If it switches off, you have nothing to fall back on. So we thought that solar would be the most inexpensive solution for a village which is far away from the national grid, and yet what their needs are were very simple. Just give me clean light. Just give me some power for a fan. Just give me some solar lantern so I can go out into my fields and look at it. And I got letters from Malawi saying, thank you for your solar, because for the first time, I'm not bitten by a snake or by a scorpion or by rats because they sleep on the floor. So we thought that the most inexpensive solution is solar. And that is how, because we've decentralized it right down to the household level, no one can complain to the government saying this is not working, this is not working, this is not working, no one's coming to repair it. If you don't look after your own panel, live in your darkness. But if you want a solar mama to repair it, she will be there, and she is being paid by the community. What they already spend on kerosene, candles, torch batteries, they are prepared to give for solar lighting. So they give about 100 rupees, about $10 a month to a community fund. And then the solar mama is paid from the community fund to look after the repair and maintenance. 7 years after we solar electrified a village in Gambia, the solar lights were still working because the community took ownership of the whole process, of the whole project. It was not dependent on government or private sector or any company. The community took ownership. So that model has worked in 96 countries around the world. And I think it's a model which is worth trying out in all the other countries. You can't stop people from migrating. But you can open opportunities for people to live a life with dignity and self-respect in your village. The option is yours. You want to live in a slum in Mumbai? Go ahead. No problem. You want to have television? No problem. You want to have clean water? I don't know whether you'll get it in the payments of Mumbai, but go ahead. You have a choice. Do you want to live with clean air, clean water, stay in your village, and be productive? Your choice. We only give choices. It's your job or your opportunity, what you want to make out of it. So about 75,000 families have agreed to stay back, become masons, become electricians, open shops, become a politician. All these are options open for them, and they have self-respect and dignity, which you don't get when you get into a city. So the options are open to them all. You know, when the solar mama, whose question was that? When the solar mama is selected, we make sure that the husband is also at that meeting, because it's a big surprise for him. And we make sure that it's in the whole community, and he can't say no. So when we select the solar mama and say now she is going to go to India, then the whole community piles onto the husband and say, you better say yes, or else our village will be in darkness. So with great reluctance, the husband says yes. Every solar mama who comes to India has to be dragged onto the plane because she hates the idea. She hates living the parents, hates living animals, hates living grandchildren. Everyone is dragged onto the plane. And after 1 month, as soon as they arrive in India, my mobile bills are the highest because they keep ringing home saying, I'm homesick, and what the hell am I doing here? I'm going to fail. There's no point coming. All this goes on. By the end of 6 months, everyone says, can I stay? I said, no, the visa is expired. You have to go back. You have to go back. And when they go back, they come as if it's a funeral, and they go back as if it's a resurrection. She's a tiger when she goes back. Every reports that I've heard, the husband is now scared of her. Because she's gone to a foreign country and come back. Because the fears of some of these women, and this always goes into the village, spreads in the village, oh, she's going to get sold, she's going to be a prostitute, all these things go on. And the woman comes back, fiery, gutsy, talks her head off, scares the hell out of the husband, and the whole community is absolutely mesmerized. Many cases, the husband has said, oh, if you go to India, I'll get another husband, you go off, no problem. She goes in spite of the threat, comes back, and when she sees the woman who's considered useless, soul electrifying all the houses in the village in front of the whole community, the husband is in total awe. Husband says, please come back. I don't, such great respect you've got all of a sudden. But in Burkina Faso, when the woman came back, and the husband says, come back, the woman said, no, I'm all right, thank you very much. I don't want you anymore. I'm all right. I've got confidence now. I'm an entrepreneur. So many, many responses that you get of the woman when they come back. But the best thing I asked the woman, I said, what is the best thing for 6 months you've been here? What is the best thing? She said, I didn't have to cook for 6 months. Husband has to look after the children. Now I come back, they have greater respect for me. So these are sort of cultural spin-offs that you don't anticipate, but it happens. Answer your question?
Okay, I think we can still entertain a few more questions. There is another young lady over there, I think.
So hi, I'm Katie. I'm from PolyU, and it's a really inspiring talk, and thank you for that. But I do have two questions actually. It's because like Solar Mama are solar engineers, and I think it is important for them to understand the theory of like how solar is working or how to make a solar controller. But for them, they don't even have like much background. They cannot speak. I mean, they cannot write. They cannot understand. So I wonder how you can make such a huge change on them within 6 weeks. I mean, 6 months, which is a short period of time. And like, what kind of difficulties have you faced at that time? And also the second question is that how do you make sure that the quality of the solar controller will be safe enough to use? Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
I went to Peru, and I went to see the head of the national solar electrification program. And I said, I'm going to give you 20 parts of a solar lantern here and 20 parts of a solar lantern here. Now you get the head of your engineering department who happens to be in Stanford or wherever from America and put this thing together, and the grandmother will do it in half an hour. Who do you want more? He said, I want the grandmother. Because this guy can't put a solar lantern together because it's all theory, no practice. So all the people who've gone through theory think that they can do it in practice, which is absolutely false. Now, if you ask the grandmother, what is the name of this part, she won't know. If you ask, why are you doing it, she won't know. But she'll make it together and put it work, and she can repair it. Who do you want? Someone who goes through 5 years of theory or 6 months of practice? Choose. I think they'll want 6 months of practice of the grandmother. Right? Have I answered your question?
Young man over here. Yes.
Hi there, I'm Aaron from California in America. So you've talked a lot about your amazing successes, but I imagine there has to be failures that come along with the successes you've achieved. Can you kind of talk about, since we're all interested in our own social enterprises and we're going to, regardless, hit failures at some point along our journey, how do you get through failure? And if you could talk about a time you experienced it and how you learned from it and it basically helped you in the long term, that'd be really useful for me. Thank you.
9 years ago, I saved about $100,000 headhunting for a CEO for the Barefoot College. I didn't have to go to anyone to headhunt because this lady, extraordinary lady, walked into the Barefoot College, New Zealander by birth, an extraordinary entrepreneur in Switzerland. She had a skydiving something or other. What do you do? Skydiving. And she has a house in Zanzibar. And she stayed. And her first question to me was that I was a bit of a failure. I said, why? Because she said, you haven't brought in a business model. You know, everything is business. Everything, how do you make it profitable? You know, so I told him that I want you to meet this extraordinary business entrepreneur who speaks his language. I don't speak the language because I'm Jurassic Park, I'm way ahead of somewhere. But I think these are the people who are going to be speaking the same language and bring in a business model to this. And there is something called Women Prosper, where the women have been trained to be an entrepreneur, make the product and sell it themselves. This is on run. This is something called Women Prosper, which I showed one slide on. And I think that's the day of the future. But that is happening. And it's going to happen in a big, big way, because for the first time, it's going to be an enterprise which is made by a woman, fabricated by a woman, marketed by a woman, and going to be sold by a woman. At the same time, the whole chain has been established. So that's, she thought I'm a bit of a failure. I accepted that.
Okay, I think there was still some.
The other failure is, how do you change the mindset of planners and professionals?
I think there was a hand over there which was raised before.
You know what Mark Twain said? Never let school interfere with your education. School is something, education is something else. So, sorry, I've interrupted you.
Sorry.
I think that is the biggest problem, how to change the mindset of these people. That just because you are illiterate doesn't mean you're uneducated. We always tell someone, oh, he's uneducated. The worst insult you can make to anybody. What you're meaning to say is that she is illiterate. So what? So what if she's illiterate? Why do you penalize someone just because you can't read and write? We have to, our mindset has to change on that very much.
Let's give that lady a chance. Yeah.
I really wanted to ask like a really short technical question, because I think that solar energy is really interesting and it's definitely like the future and everything. But I just wanted to know if you guys figured out a way to, because like you said, it lasts 7 years, right? More or less on average. Like one solar panel lasts 7 years, more or less.
25 years.
25?
Is the lifespan of the panel, and 7 years is the lifespan of the battery.
Wow, okay. Okay, well, maybe my question is stupid, but I just wanted to know if you guys figured out a way to dispose of the solar panels that don't work anymore in an eco-friendly way, or if you're still working on that, because I feel like that's, like solar panel has so many like pros, but the one con is that like it's hard to kind of like dispose of it, but if it lasts 25 years, then maybe my question is stupid, because maybe you don't have that many.
I'll let you know in 25 years.
Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Bharati, I'm from India. Thank you for your inspiring speech. I wanted to ask you that you are educating the children. So you said that one of the necessities is that the people have to be illiterate, but the children are being educated. What are the future prospects? Are you involving them in your project in the future?
We are, but we also haven't excluded the people who, because they haven't had an opportunity, shouldn't be written off. That's why we say that wherever there are schools, we of course encourage them to go and read and write. But wherever there are women who can't read and write, don't exclude them from a development process, because they also have an opportunity. They should be given an opportunity to also remain in the village, develop the village, and gain some self-respect. So most of the schools now that we have are digital. And that digital side is being handled. We are on the way. I don't think we're neglecting the children at all.
Thank you.
Okay, I think our time's up. Let us thank Mr. Roy again for an inspiring speech.
Thank you, Mr. Roy and Dr. Chan.